information discussed in this webinar is current as of the date noted and is for informational purposes only and does not intend to address the financial objectives, situation, or specific needs of any individual investor. Any information is for illustrative purposes only and does not intend to serve as investment, tax, or legal advice, since the availability and effectiveness of any strategy is dependent upon your individual facts and circumstances. Results will vary, and no suggestion is made about how any specific solution or strategy will perform in reality. And with that, we will jump into the first question that was submitted during our registration process. And I do thank you all for taking advantage of that option to allow our panel some time to prepare for these questions. First, we're going to lead off with Todd, a question leading off with you, and then we'll hear from the rest of our panel members. In your experience, what kind of mistakes do you see people make regarding their finances immediately before or after they decide to retire?
Well, hopefully with the clients we work with, we're not making any mistakes, but we do extensive planning and preparation for retirement plans. And one of the things we talk about internally in our offices pretty much regularly is the real key to retirement is retiring to something, not from something. And that's not necessarily a financial issue, but it really is a peace of mind issue. So many of us, when we get towards the end of our career, we're going 110%, we're going 200 miles an hour, and we just can't wait to get out. And really, we see that might not be a real reason to retire. Maybe it's a little bit more job burnout or just working too much. What would your day look like if you only had to work from 9 till 2? What would your work week look like if you only had to work 3 days a week or 4 days a week? So that's some of the first issues we deal with is it really a retirement issue or is it really more a job issue? In terms of mistakes, I don't know if they're mistakes we see, but sometimes oversights that we see really are inflation and taxation. And what I mean by that is, recently we were up domestically at an inflation rate of in the 8 or 9% range. That can really blow up a retirement plan if that's not factored in. The other thing is taxation. And what I mean by that is most of our retirement assets are taxable, whether it's an IRA or a 401k, a pension, even Social Security. So if I'm looking to pay for my daughter's wedding and it's $20,000, I may need to take $30,000 out of my retirement account just to pay for that $20,000. So long-winded answer to say probably the two biggest oversights are inflation and taxation.
Now we'll open things up to Scott and Jakob if you two have anything to add to Todd's points.
But add two extremes. You have the misers who don't want to spend anything out of fear that they're going to run out of money. And then the spenders who, I'm retired, woohoo, let's go, and will run out of money.
Okay, if there's nothing else to add, we'll move on to our next question, and we'll lead off with Jakob on this one. What do people do about health insurance if they decide to retire before Medicare is available to them?
So this can be a big question for a lot of our clients. Medical insurance is a big cost in retirement, especially if you have to bridge that gap between your retirement and when Medicare will kick in for you. Depending on your company and the plans that they offer, there could be COBRA. This is extending your employer provided insurance with the consideration that you will have to start paying the premiums. Depending on your situation, it could be anywhere from 18 to 36 months of coverage. But again, you're going to be paying the full premium plus even maybe some administrative costs with that. Other than that, you can obviously shop around, but that can be a big variable in determining whether to retire, a year or two before that Medicare kicks in, or sticking it out until that you are able to qualify for the Medicare.
Anything to add, Scott or Todd?
I've
I think you covered it well.
had some retirees look at part-time work simply to get the healthcare coverage. They're ready to retire. They maybe want to slow down. They want to take a less intense job, but healthcare is a concern. So they work part-time. They're not really concerned about their income. But if the part-time job comes with some healthcare coverage, then that's a home run.
All right, Scott, I'm going to let you lead off with this question, our next question here. Do you see many retirees changing their mind and returning to work, quote unquote, a retirement fail, or are they taking the opportunity to work at an alternate profession?
Interesting question. In the presentation, we had a survey where somewhere around 88% of people still planned on working during retirement in some way, either a change of career or a entrepreneurial opportunity. They've been working a job for a number of years and they've got an idea, and now they're going to put that idea into practice and try to start a business. People will go back to work just to give them something to do for the social aspects of it. So there's a number of different ways that I'm not sure that it's necessarily a fail, but it's just learning as you go. I'm not working anymore. I've got this time on my hands. I thought I was going to do this, that, and the other thing, and then I end up that's not fulfilling. So let me find something else to do to fill up my time to use my day.
Todd, is this something you've experienced with the clients you've worked with over the years?
Absolutely, Scott. Yeah, that's a great answer. Some other things I've seen happen are, people that own rental properties. They get involved more with their rental property as a retirement stream of income. Also, like you said, self-employment. If income's not an issue, volunteering, putting some time and effort back into an organization that's near and dear to your heart. So I agree with you, Scott. I don't think it's a fail. It's sort of an adjustment on the run.
Anything to add before our next question, Jacob?
No, it's just important to remember that retirement looks different for everyone. There's no one right answer to what you should or shouldn't do. And it's just about making the adjustments on the fly, like Todd and Scott both said.
Okay, so Todd, we'll bounce back to you for our next question. Can you explain the strategies for using types of savings after retirement? What types of accounts should be accessed first? Tax qualified, Roth, taxable, question mark.
Yeah, these are great questions, and really, as Jake alluded to, every retirement plan we've done is unique based on what people's situation is. This question really depends on tax brackets, and what I mean by that is, when you're doing a plan spend down, what tax bracket are the folks in now? Where are they going to be in 5 years? And where might they be in 10 years? And those are difficult projections. But with our software, we draw a line in the sand, and then we can create as many what if situations as you like. For the most part, obviously, taxable withdrawals are best done when you're at your lowest tax bracket. That's pretty common sense. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you're planning on passing assets to the next generation, whether it's kids or grandkids, they will always be very thankful for any Roth accounts that get passed down, because those are all after tax. You've paid the tax on them, hopefully at a low bracket. And now when they go to kids or grandkids, those are the ones that are pretty much a 10-year tax-free annuity. So those are kind of neat to leave to the end. If you don't use them all, they go to kids. But in terms of the individual accounts or brokerage accounts or the taxable accounts, that's really going to be based on tax projections and what bracket you're currently at.
Anything to add, Scott or Jacob?
I would just add, this was not part of the question, but when I read the question, I thought it doesn't mention Social Security or pensions. And those factor in also, and the tax consequences of those, and depending on if you have a pension or not, and then what your Social Security is when you're starting Social Security, all rolls in with the tax question that Todd mentioned there.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions here relating to pensions. So I'm going to roll these into into one question, but a two-parter. First one is, should I use my 401k money first and wait to take out my pension until I'm older? The second question we had relating to pensions, is it better to take a lump sum or annuity for my pension? And we'll go ahead and have Jacob run with this one.
So, as for the first question, whether to take your 401k and push off your pension, it's all going to depend on your situation. You obviously don't want to be spending down your 401k to nothing and then solely relying on the pension to meet your needs throughout the rest of your retirement. Depending on that, there could be different considerations like tax brackets. Are there going to be increases in your pension for pushing it off? Are there any other considerations with the pension? And then as for the lump sum for the annuity or an annuity, that can also come down to your tax considerations. Depending on the pension, it could be taxable, could depend on the different considerations of the firm and what their specific requirements are for the pension and how it increases over time or stays the same with inflation. And depends on your level of comfort. A major goal of annuity is to address longevity risk. That's the risk of running out, outliving your money. So if you're more investment savvy than one, maybe a lump sum could be a better option. You could take that money, invest it, and kind of deal with it more by yourself. And then an annuity is just a set amount of money that you're going to be getting. You don't really have access to it, but you're assured to get those payments every so often.
All right, Todd and Scott, I will turn things over to you two if you have any additional feedback on those questions.
Yeah, Jake, that was great. I guess as a broad generalization, I'm a bigger fan of lump sum, just from a control standpoint, I guess. I feel with an annuity, you're sort of out of control of it. What I mean by that is with a lump sum, more times than not, you're in charge of the investment mix, the allocation. You're in charge of when you want to take withdrawals. It's not a set amount. Plus, you're also in charge of the risk segmentation. What I mean by that is maybe right when you retire, you're hoping you have 20 or 25 years of retirement. Maybe you can be a little bit more aggressive in your investing with your retirement assets. If you do that, if you're locked into an annuity, everything's set. But like Jake said, there's so many different forms of an annuity. Is it single life? Does it stop when you die? Is it joint and survivor? Does it go to a spouse when you die? So a lot of fine points to really look into before ultimately making that decision.
I would just add that the software that Todd mentioned a few moments ago, when we do retirement planning, we can run numbers of different scenarios and we can answer some of those questions with hard data.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. And Scott, I'm going to lead this off to you to lead us on this one. I'm preparing to enter the aging in place portion of my retirement. I've been retired for 25 years. I'm primarily worried about what help I need to age in place in my independent housing facility.
That is a great question. We've actually been working with a client's parents on this topic even the last couple of weeks here. I think the first thing that I would do is talk to the folks in your county in the senior citizens help area. And you can find that online. There may be some programs where they will help you to age in place. I know here in New York, in Steuben County, I know of a program that works specifically with that, and it's based on a model from a group in Maine that started, it's called Full Circle America, which helps people to stay in their homes long term. Some of the things that they do, they will outfit your home with cameras so that your loved ones who are in the next town or the next state or across the country can keep track of you during the day, and they'll also monitor your movements during the day. And there's a number of different programs to provide meals for folks. They don't want to cook anymore. There are different box meal companies where they will send you every week 3 or 4 or more meals that all you got to do is pop in the oven or in the microwave that allow you to stay in your own home. So there's a lot of options available. And again, I would check with your local senior center in your county.
Todd or Jacob, any additional feedback on that front?
I think that's some great points, Scott. I think aging in place is definitely a priority for most of the folks that I've started retirement plans with. It allows you to retain your independence, and I think if finances allow, bringing people in to your home makes a lot of sense, whether it's for social or maybe it's like you said, preparing meals, maybe it's for minor upkeep of the yard or cleaning inside. That makes a lot of sense, and I think that's definitely the first step before you look at community or assisted living or nursing homes. Aging in place is definitely the place to start.
Okay, so we'll move on to Jacob to take the lead on our next question. What strategies can I utilize to reduce taxable income in retirement?
So this kind of brings us back to an earlier question of when to take money from certain accounts. So there's that pre-tax and that post-tax. Those two buckets can be very useful in retirement, especially in years where you have higher than normal withdrawals. You can take a certain portion from the pre-tax, so that will be taxable, and then you can also take another portion from the post-tax that's already been taxed to kind of even out your tax situation between taxable and non-taxable money. In addition, some strategies are tax loss harvesting. So when your investments maybe slightly dip down, and that's in a year where you have substantial capital gains, you can sell your investments that are slightly down while buying them back shortly after to realize those losses in your investments that can help offset those capital gains and then also lower your taxes in retirement. QCDs are another big one that we help a lot of clients with. When you hit a certain age, you're going to be required to take distributions from certain retirement accounts. I'm sure many of you have heard RMDs, whether it's from family, friends, parents, grandparents. So if you're interested in charitable giving, this can be a great strategy because you'll have to take out those RMDs one way or another, and they are taxable unless they're sent directly to a charity. So this way you can satisfy your required minimum distribution while not paying tax on the money and also for your charitable goals. And then also utilizing some tax efficient investments depending on your tax bracket. If your investment income tends to be a lot of your taxable income on your tax return, using some tax efficient investments that don't have any taxable considerations could be another important use of your funds.
Todd and Scott, turn it over to you.
I would just add the possibility of Roth conversions for folks that are early in their retirement before they reach required minimum distribution years. That may be a time when your tax bracket is low to do conversions from taxable or from IRAs and 401ks into Roths that preserve that money from taxation in years to come.
Okay, Todd, we're going to go back to you on this one. Do you often see clients struggle over the time/date of their retirement?
Yeah, that's the biggest question. When should I retire? When can I retire? And how much do I need to retire? And like Scott said, that's really what we use our retirement software for. We plug in the data, we sort of draw a line in the sand, and that's our starting point. And then what we do is we change as many factors as we can think of. One of the big ones is what's our expiration date? How long are we going to live? That's a huge factor in deciding when we can retire. What's the longevity in your family and in your spouse's family? Rates of return, we can plug whatever you want in that. What do we expect rates of return to be in the next 10 years? I touched on inflation. That's a huge factor in terms of when people can retire and when it makes sense to retire. How long are you going to work? Is there going to be part-time work in retirement? Do you have any other sort of non-traditional income streams, maybe a rental property? So a lot of things really factor into that. It's a great question, but it comes with a lot of, well, it depends answers. And really that's an area of financial planning that I personally spend most of my time with the clients that are getting to that retirement age is when can I retire and how much do I need to retire?
Scott and Jakob?
I would just add to what Todd just said, the question of what do you want to do in retirement? We've kind of covered that already here, but if you're going to travel around the world, the amount of money you need in your pot to retire is going to be bigger than someone who's going to maintain the same lifestyle as before they retired. So what you want to do in retirement, I think, does add into that question.
Okay, so we will bounce back over to Jakob for this question. What are the steps in the process that can steer a person in the right direction as they begin to crunch numbers and start to get a picture of when they can retire?
So that that can depend on a lot of different things of when you're trying to steer yourself in the right direction. Is it 10 years out from retirement? Is it a couple years out from retirement? One important consideration is that once you are closer to retirement, whether it's 10, 15 years, that a lot of retirement plans allow catch-up contributions. This can be very useful for people who may not have saved as much as they wanted to earlier in their career. They can contribute additional money to their retirement upon the normal contribution limit. As for steering yourself in the right direction, flow, your balance sheet, have any goals before you retire. People like to some of their bigger debt payments out of the way before, so they don't have to worry about that. Sometimes it can be good to keep them in retirement. There's a lot of different ways to prepare and what their retirement looks like. But again, it all kind of depends on your situation and your timeline.
Anything to add, Scott or Todd?
I think Jake touched on it, and even Scott did on the prior question. Cash flow is such an important analysis, and really it changes, and it changes from good to not so good. And what I mean by that is usually when people retire, there's a lot of things they want to do that are fun. They want to travel, they want to go on trips, they want to visit kids, they want to pay for grandkids, they have a annual Christmas trip that they're going to pay for everything. And that's great through the 70s and early 80s. And now it probably changes to less fun cash outflows where, a lot of your week is having people come in, medical appointments, dental appointments. But that can all be factored in that cash flow analysis where it initially starts with a lot of out-of-pocket expenses for fun stuff. Then the medical stuff tends to kick in as well. And so all that can be analyzed and looked at that retirement cash flow.
Okay, so we are going to go to our last submitted question, pre-submitted question for this session here. But first, I would like to encourage the group, if you do have any questions that you'd like to submit that haven't already been asked, please utilize the chat feature. Amelia, our marketing representative, is monitoring that at the moment. And if you think of any questions you have after we leave this session today that you want answered, we do have another session with our panel scheduled to begin at noon. So if you think of anything after you leave today's session, the link will remain the same as the one that was sent to you yesterday or the day before. So feel free to hop back on and have your questions answered in the 12 to 12:30 session. So with that, Scott, I believe it's your turn in the rotation here. And the question is, does it make sense to put money into a Roth IRA or put money pre-tax into my 401k?
That is a great question, and it really does boil down to when you want to pay the taxes, because you have to pay taxes on it somewhere. So am I better off taking the tax deduction now and then paying taxes on it later, or am I better off not or foregoing the tax deduction now and having the free money later? Really, the easiest answer to that question is tax brackets. Which do I plan on having a higher tax bracket in retirement or a lower tax bracket in retirement? And you want to put the money in the retirement account depending on which is the better tax bracket for you.